Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles in this video. We're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons and Elon Musk and backlash, I guess. We're going to talk about the backlash to the backlash from the senior director or designer of D&D, Jason Tondro, who was heavily involved in this original Dungeons & Dragons book, the 1970 to 77 edition. And yeah, he's basically saying that if you're an old school Grognard, that you should be ignored. You shouldn't be listened to. This game's not for you anymore, right? This game has evolved beyond the original creators of the game. This game has evolved beyond the original players of the game, and it's for the new modern audience, guys. That's what he seems to be saying. So we're gonna talk about this. This is a follow-up to another video we did talking about Elon Musk, who waded into the situation. He replied to a Twitter post by Grums, who's actually been on the channel before. And in fact, we had him on, gosh, it's been probably about a year now. And we were kind of explaining the tabletop situation to him. And I think he was kind of shocked at just how weird the tabletop scene and how weirdly political the tabletop scene had become. And, he made the comments. Musk got involved. We have some people that were originally there, involved at TSR and involved in original Dungeons & Dragons weighing in. Lots of old school fans weighing in. And we have Jason Tondro weighing in and saying, yeah, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. So anyway, we're going to talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You know the drill. Go out to clownfish-.com. Help support the reef if you can. We got some new merch out there. These hats are nice. I like hats. These hats are nice. These mugs are nice. We're selling a lot of those. Got a few signed pins left. A handful. I had 2 or 3, I think. I think the Steves are all gone, the bubbly Steves, but thank you very, very much for that. If you would also like the same exclusive podcast content, you can go out to clownfishtv.locals.com. Again, greatly appreciated. So let's talk about what has come before for those of you who didn't watch the first video, and then we'll talk about where things are at right now. So it actually made ICV2 rolling for initiative. Musk ado about Dungeons & Dragons, and they said, yeah, he got into it with them. He said, now this is the writer Scott Thorne, who said that as far as he could tell, in regards to the making of original Dungeons & Dragons 1970 and 1977, the author spends about half a page discussing problematic aspects of D&D and not ascribing them to any of the creators, merely pointing out that such writing was not unusual for the era. Actually, what was said, it was what some of the WotC people have been saying or reiterating in person, even in videos, is that D&D was created by a bunch of middle-aged white guys from the flyover states. That's essentially what they said, and that they used problematic language, and these things were racist and offensive back then, and they were wrong then and they're wrong now, right? The whole thing. Well, the problem with that is there's a whole controversy around Dungeons & Dragons and the legacy of the creators of D&D and the co-creators of D&D. Gary Gygax and his family in particular, there's a lot of stickiness around that. They've been trying to wipe Gary Gygax from existence for a while. I think if Hasbro thought they could just snap their fingers and make the Gygax family disappear, I think they would do it in a heartbeat, because they don't like to be reminded that this game was co-created by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, and there's a whole story there too. But they don't like being reminded of that fact. I think, one, because Gary Gygax was pretty conservative. He was libertarian. He was a Christian, and he was very outspoken. In fact, he was on the FBI watch list, I think, because he was very outspoken. But he's rich and eccentric. That happens. But also, I think Hasbro's worried that the Gygax family is going to fish around for royalties, which personally I think they should get. Especially Ernie Gygax. I mean, not that Ernie had more or less to do with it than the other Gygax kids, but I know his financial situation, and these are the children of the guy who co-created Dungeons & Dragons, which has made Hasbro billions of dollars, and they're not doing so well financially. And the right thing to do, if you're really this concerned, Hasbro, if you're really this concerned about doing the right thing, nitpicking language from 1970s gaming manuals, don't waste your time doing that. Spend your time trying to make right by the families of the people that have made the things that have made you wealthy. And same with G.I. Joe. Like I've talked about Larry Hama before. Like G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, has made Hasbro probably billions of dollars total in sales over several decades. And Larry Hama is still working into his 70s, and he has health problems, and he shouldn't be working. Like seriously, Hasbro, just kick him $5-10 million and say thank you so much. Kick the Gygaxes a couple $1,000,000 each and say, hey, thank you. This is as a thank you to your family for their legacy. But no, they won't do that. Anyway. So yeah, it was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous thing to put in the book. There was backlash before the book came out, and this isn't the first time they've tried this. In fact, leading up to the 50th anniversary, they celebrated the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons by finally revealing the face of the warrior, the very famous warrior from the Red Box set from 1983, who has his back turned. I'm saying his because it was definitely a male. Well, they revealed that this warrior is actually a black woman. A well-endowed black woman. There's absolutely nothing. Even Larry Elmore, who did the painting, said no. It was a man, and they actually did reveal the face of the warrior before. They had an action figure like years ago. It's so stupid. So they're going out of their way to antagonize. You can't. They've been for years. So, I mean, I get it if you're just coming into it and you're not familiar with the years of bullshit that's been going on around Wizards of the Coast and the Gygaxes and 5e players versus the Grognards and all this garbage. But like this controversy has been brewing for quite some time, and Elon Musk basically threw kerosene on it because this is the first he's been made aware of it. And the same thing happened to us. I was not aware that there were problems with D&D because I hadn't touched D&D in quite some time. And I did know that the tabletop scene was pretty weird right now compared to what it used to be, but whatever. And then, all it took was us saying, hey, maybe Wizards of the Coast isn't the way to go. Maybe you should try another OSR or something that feels more like old school D&D. And God, we became public enemy number one. This is like 4 or 5 years ago. And even the guy whose OSR recommended kind of threw us under the bus. He later apologized, but I was like, dude, I know how many books I sold for you. It's like, you're welcome, right? Such is our lot in life. Yeah, so I don't give them a pass at all. I think that they knew exactly what they were doing. They said some critics accused the writer of both slandering and attempting to erase the work of Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson and others, including Robert Kuntz, who was there. And I'm going to read a statement from him, too. This was not getting much notice outside of X until, for some reason, Elon Musk pulled himself away from his new position with Doge to post about it. With typical hyperbole, Musk posted, nobody gets to trash Gary Gygax and the geniuses who created Dungeons and Dragons. What the fuck is wrong with Hasbro? And WotC, may they burn in hell. Seriously, over 2 paragraphs out of several hundred pages addressing problematic issues with early D&D products, including straightforward copyright violations, halflings, treants, and Balors were hobbits, Ents, Balrogs in the original works, till they got contacted. Yeah, but like, look, early D&D was basically bootleg Tolkien. I mean, it is what it is, right? I totally admit that. So they're hardly trashing the creators of Dungeons and Dragons, especially since they're never mentioned by name in the paragraphs addressing the topic. They didn't have to. They didn't have to mention them specifically by name. They've been going out of their way to distance themselves from the original creators of D&D for decades, right? And they said it was created by a bunch of middle-aged white men, straight white men in the Midwest, and that's why they're so damn ignorant. I mean, seriously. I mean, it is what it is, right? So that's what happened. So anyway, now we've got Jason Tondro. Apparently this is on Facebook. Somebody said, hey, out of curiosity, did you or your team foresee any blowback to your comments, potentially? That is, attention from Musk. Attention from Musk was as unpredictable as it is ludicrous. But was there any sense in advance that this could rub some portion of the fandom the wrong way, though still be worth doing? Absolutely. They knew what they're doing. I mean, we've been following this for 4 or 5 years now, and it's pretty wild, the mental gymnastics that are being done. And now we're not getting the blowback we used to get anytime we called out Wizards of the Coast, because a lot of people that maybe don't like Gary Gygax, who think that, yeah, old school D&D was problematic. Yeah, they're mostly 5e players. They don't like WotC very much now either, because of the OGL debacle, the Pinkertons debacle. The list goes on and on and on, right? But this is, again, Jason Tondro, who's, I guess, effectively in charge of D&D now. He said, early in the book's development, the marketing team asked me what sort of critiques we should expect and prepare for. And I and the editors agreed the problem was going to be from progressives and people from underrepresented groups who justly took offense at the language of OD&D. Justly took offense. I didn't write the preface until late, and I wrote it to address these concerns. It never occurred to me that I'd raise the ire of the Grognards, guys, the Grognards. It's obvious. He's even using the derogatory terminology for old school players. It's like Thaco the Clown. Thaco the Clown. Yeah, you knew what you were doing. You knew what you were doing. It's obvious now that I look back on it, but I just don't take those critiques seriously even now. I consider those people not worth listening to, so I didn't anticipate their outrage, quote unquote. No, bullshit. Bullshit. Actually, leading up to the release of the book, there were numerous videos and essays about how stupid it was to throw away old school fans. And now we've got it. We've got Robert Kuntz, who was there at the beginning, also addressing the situation. And he was actually agreeing with Elon Musk. He said, having returned from our monthly shop and being very tired, I really don't have the time or energy at present to respond to Jason Tondro's less than humane view of Grognards, which he obviously regards as a lower species of human, and much in the same way that the elitist conquering Spaniards considered the Aztecs savages and thus deserving the deprecation, killing, and looting perpetuated upon them by the former. Yeah, and I gotta give a hat tip to, before I get, I'm pretty far into it now, to Graph Paper Architect, who actually put this on my radar. That'd be Michael Hovermail, who's working with us on Adventure Engine, which is our system. Not that it's ever going to compete with D&D, but, we're trying to come up with some alternatives here. And he's been actually sending me some of Kuntz's tweets as well. Below one will spy the credits page for D&D's 5e Player's Handbook. Mike Merles, who left WotC and now works for Chaosium, has been playing and designing for many years. He was at one time an avid World of Greyhawk fan and a follower of my first blog, Lord of the Green Dragons. His co-author, Jeremy Crawford, chased me down at Luca Comics and Games in 2015 to thank me profusely for what we had accomplished and present me with a Player's Handbook, which I promptly asked him to autograph. Other names that helped shape the game over the years are easily recognizable, and all of these people have one thing in common. They're all veteran designers, and one and all appreciative of the glorious road paved by us. Call them Grognards, if you will, but many on that list are still endeavoring upon that road, nonetheless, a road now despoiled by elitists, fed by hubris. I can tell he's an author. He's very eloquent. And I'm trying to read his words. I'm like, Grognard. Mr. Tandro and his masters, who allow his dehumanizing speech to persist, has proven there's no level to which he will descend in supporting his divisive, damaging, alienating invective. So here, this is coming from Player's Handbook, August 2014, based on the original game created by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, with Brian Bloom, Rob Kuntz, James Ward, and Don Kay. And so many other names in here. Legends, if you are a fan of TSR D&D, as I am. I grew up playing TSR D&D, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the only real version of D&D. We've got Frank Metzer in there. We've got Zeb Cook in there, Ed Greenwood in there, Tracy Hickman, Margaret Weis, so many. And a lot of these people, most of these people, have been, I'm going to be very ineloquent. Is that a word? Anyway, they've been fucked over by WotC. A lot of them have been completely fucked over by Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. Ed Greenwood and Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman, and people that have created these worlds, these great worlds that they're making money hand over fist off of, with Baldur's Gate and different IP, different movies, whatever. These people don't get any residuals, don't get any money, and a lot of them aren't even welcome at Wizards of the Coast anymore. They're not welcome to contribute anymore. I know Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman had to sue Wizards of the Coast. And I guess they got that all sorted out, but I mean, it's a mess. Ed Greenwood, I know there was some kind of a kerfuffle over his credit. He is the creator of the Forgotten Realms, and they used the Forgotten Realms in the movie, and apparently he didn't get proper credit in that movie. It's disgusting. Again, Hasbro wound up with Dungeons and Dragons accidentally. They wanted Wizards of the Coast because of Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, and they got D&D for free, basically. And they didn't really, I don't think they really did much with it. They just kind of left it on autopilot until Critical Role came along, made it popular with a certain demographic, right? The 5e fans. And also Stranger Things. Everybody had this, this nostalgia for D&D that, frankly, the D&D that didn't really exist. I think, you had these kids playing it, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of, sort of the way it was it was like they had a lot more miniatures than we had. Like when I first started playing, like miniatures came a little bit later, but like a lot of us played without miniatures. A lot of us played with like freaking scraps of paper and like Parcheesi pieces because we didn't have anything else to use. And Raw Partha figures, man, they were expensive. They were so expensive. But, yeah, it is disgusting. It's disgusting how they're treating people. Grum's put this up, which is interesting. I actually posted this, and this is Gen Con, and that's a whole nother issue. But like Gen Con really tries to downplay Gary Gygax, and Gary Gygax was the one who founded the convention, right? And they mention his name at the very beginning of their About Us page, but mostly they talk about how progressive and enlightened they are now. And that is the attitude. That is the attitude at Wizards of the Coast. That is the attitude at Gen Con. That is the attitude of a lot of tabletop gaming right now, is that the current breed of players are the enlightened ones, and that those of us who played back in the 80s, even 90s, 80s, 70s even, were just grognards, and we're not worth listening to. And now D&D is for a more enlightened audience. That might be the case, and that's fine. You can have it, because there are so many alternatives out there. There are so many alternatives out there that feel more like classic D&D than what Wizards of the Coast is peddling these days. And frankly, they're going to turn it into a shitty mobile app. And that's going to be it. That's going to be the end of it. And it's going to be up to Grognards and others who actually still love playing tabletop games to continue the legacy of playing tabletop games, on actual tables with actual friends, because Hasbro doesn't want that. They don't want that. So I'm gonna wrap it up, guys. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. So we'll talk later.